Right, here on my way to Coober Pedy, 200 kilometers away, and I just had some thoughts in regards of planning your trip. And this is what I found, and this is what turned out to be actually advantageous, even though at the time it appeared a little bit contrary to the European way of approaching these things. So when I planned the trip, not only did my employer say, okay, we finance the trip, but of course only straight from A to B, and they recommended 7 hours maximum on the road, and then of course a certain budget per day. Now 7 hours on the road, so what I did was, of course, I looked at the overall roadmap from Melbourne to Katherine, and then I checked out the bigger places, and then the hotels and what's convenient. So the first obvious suspect from Melbourne to Adelaide, that's a big chunk, and was actually a bit longer than 7 hours, but because it is still within this city suburban setting, it is okay, and we are used to that as Europeans to drive distances 1,000 kilometers or whatever. I remember going to the south of France or driving to England or wherever, and that was all right, even though the weather was turning out to be a challenge, and the result is that in January, I think today is the 9th, floods across Victoria are in the northern parts have caused havoc, and I was sort of on the edge of the beginning of these storms, because I remember the last part was quite tricky and dangerous to drive, so that slowed me down. And then after a long day of drive, not kilometer wise, distance is around 800 kilometers, but time wise it took much longer, I was exhausted. Okay, the next stage was Adelaide to Port Augusta, and that's rather close. It's around 360 kilometers, and 3.5 hours or whatever, and that's the second stop. So when I was driving, I was actually a bit annoyed with myself that I didn't think of, I could have gone Adelaide Coober Pedy. That would have resulted into a distance of roughly 800 and something. 800 something? 900? Anyway, and because it's only highway, I thought, could have done it the same amount of time. But now I'm on the road to Coober Pedy and reflecting back, and it is worthwhile considering the shorter distances, especially when you are on a tight time frame. When you're exploring the country and you've got 6 months to drive around, you probably don't care the distance. You care more about the sites that you want to discover. However, I've got to be at a certain point in Katherine, so I can't linger, and it's not covered anyway. But what I found was that the drive to Adelaide, from Adelaide to Port Augusta took much longer. It's something that even the apps didn't have on board as news, was that a lot of stretches were actually down to 80 kilometers per hour, or at times even 40, because of roadworks. So it took a long time, maybe 5 or 6 hours. And I was glad that I got Port Augusta on the roadmap as a stop. Now here I am, Coober Pedy, and the distance is 550. There's another thing that I didn't know and I didn't realize, that is, while the landscape is amazing and extraordinary and out of this world almost, it is also very, very challenging, monotonous, especially when you drive on your own. And 100 kilometers is, of course, like 200 or 300 kilometers in a more urban setting. And I'm feeling fatigued right now. So I just wanted to share that with you. Things to consider when planning driving across Australia, especially when you're on your own. All right, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and I'm out. Moving north.